Guys, deluded. Now, with the World Cup just going, it was a fantastic spectacle. But one thing that was spoken about or whispered was immigration. Not to say it's a bad thing, it's clearly a good thing in a time and age where the far rights of many European states and many countries on a general basis are rising up, and we're looking to divide and pitch ourselves against one another. The World Cup was a good one. I mean, Belgium, whether it's Lukaku of Congolese descent, Dembele, whether his nationality is from, Witsel the same, Chad Lee, Adnan Januzaj. There's all different sort of heritages within that country. The World Cup winners in France, they're all French. I mean, no one can say they're more or less French than people that are of native France descent. Like, whatever. You've got Griezmann there, he's native to France, but his heritage is Portuguese and Spanish to a degree. You've got Adil Rami and Fekir, who are from East African nation heritage. You obviously got Cameroon with a Dembele. You've got the French-speaking parts of the Caribbean with Thomas Lemar, and you've got a number of African countries with the likes of Pogba, etc. So immigration has been a great thing in a time and age where it's being used to divide people. Like I said, all you got to do is watch the 98 documentary of when France won the 98 World Cup to know the connotations that were with it. So yeah, man, it's nice to see, mainly even Portugal, same thing. It's nice to see the European nations benefit from it and on a general basis. But it got me thinking. Like, obviously, as much as I am English and born in London, I'm of Caribbean heritage, specifically Jamaica and Barbados, and I'm proud of it. I've got happy memories of both. I'm every bit Caribbean as I am English, regardless of my accent and regardless what anyone tells me. So I want to see Caribbean nations or Caribbean countries or African countries as well, but specifically Caribbean countries for the purpose of this vid, do well and things like that. And it got me thinking. Now, we know not just with Caribbean-based nations, there's a lot of, we have to address the elephant in the room. A lot of African federations and a lot of Caribbean nations, as seen by the Trinidadian man, the Trini man who got bagged for match fixing, corruption. Just like in governments, corruption. We can talk about the higher powers that be and the connotations and how it's evolved from slavery and several other things as the reason why we're at here, at the state we're at, where countries that hardly have anything are corrupting the nation. We don't need to get into that, innit? But I want to see Caribbean nations do well, and there's several things I would like to see implemented. Firstly, if we take an inspiration out of, in fact, maybe I should say this, if we look at, obviously, there's a lot of Jamaican-based players. Just to use Jamaica or Barbados as an example, there's a lot of Jamaican players in many leagues in Europe. You get what I'm saying? But there's not. If you were to pick five off the top of your head, you're going to be struggling. Where's Morgan, Leon Bailey? You're struggling. You're struggling for the rest. And if it's not the players that had aspirations to play for England and then couldn't make it and then turn to play for other Caribbean nations, you don't really see that. So yeah, man, I would like to see on a general basis the talent pool of Caribbean players better or more improved sort of thing. And there's several things we can do to that. Firstly, the opportunities. I'm not going to say clubs don't scout the Caribbean, but I'm pretty sure off the top of my head, obviously the landmass of the Caribbean and Africa is different, or Middle East and stuff. But Middle East and Africa and even China to a degree are more scouted than the Caribbean. Like I said, I hold my hands up. The only people that really do the scouting there is MLS. So you'd like to see clubs scout there more and increase the talent pool and bring players over. Obviously, there'll be work permit issues and things like that. To which I say, look at Mets. Mets have a team, or even Arsenal to a degree. Remember when we had that Belgium team that was allowing us to get a lot of African internationals either on trial like Yaya Toure or into the club like Kola and Abue, helping us kind of escape and get round the work permit problems. I believe Mets have that. Mets have a feeder club, which is basically a Senegalese-based feeder club where their players are now, obviously, if they show ability, they're developed and then they're brought into France. That's the ticket for the Senegalese international into Europe. Like you see with Ismail Assar, then it's down to him to improve and impress himself and then get a move to a bigger club. You don't really see that said for the Caribbean nations. Not even the ones with, I believe, Kingsley Coleman, definitely Lacazette, Thierry Henry, Anelka, all of them sort of, Thomas Lemar, the French-speaking parts of the Caribbean, Guadeloupe and Les Martins, I can't even say Martinique, or I can't say the name of it, but all of them sort of nations there which people move to France and play football. Not even that. There's many Dutch-speaking parts of the Caribbean or South America, depending on how you want to class it, that obviously go to Holland and things like that. But you don't really see the feeder clubs there like that. So I'd like to see feeder clubs implemented. Obviously, you'd like to see the coaching staff, something done about the coaching, whether it's bringing in international coaches to coach the players and improve them technically and things like that. or teach the native-based coaches, or send coaches to four corners of Europe and Spain, England, or whatever, and let them learn and go back with what they've learned to increase the game. But I would say this, to be fair, man. What I'd like to see is probably the feeder club sort of thing with Caribbean nations sort of, like you've seen typically what Belgium and French clubs do with a lot of African internationals and promising African players. I'd like to see that. Obviously, if we take a lead out of the Saudi Arabia national team's book, a lot of them, whether it was at, I believe one was at Villarreal, one went on trial at United, a couple were dotted all over the map in Europe. They sent a lot of their internationals to Europe on loan at European clubs to play, to learn football. Now, a lot of them didn't actually play for the first team and things like that, but they're training and playing in a competitive environment. It's going to improve them. So now when they play for the Saudi Arabian national team or go back, it's expanded. Obviously, there's that. There's that aspect, but in short, people, like, it's a pipe dream. I would just like to see, in the same way I would like a lot of the African nations, whether it's Cameroon with Kylian Mbappe, however you want to call it, and a lot of them, I'd like to see their people of their descent or people native to them play for them and make the team stronger, because it's sad. Like, if we look at it, no one, specifically to England, no one of British heritage or English heritage, Sterling was even born in Jamaica, is going to pick Jamaica over England. Now, if you pick England for sporting reasons or you feel more like, I'd probably pick England myself. There's nothing wrong with that. But to which I would just like it to be a level playing field. I just feel, me personally, I'd probably play for England. I would play for England, but I would like to be in a position as a footballer where it's a thing where I weigh up the pros and cons, and I'm not just judging based on quality reasons. Obviously, England will always trump Jamaica, Premier League, more competitive football nation and all of these things, but I'd just like to see it be less of a straightforward choice. In the same way, French and African-based players, many of them are only... Look at Bogger, Jeremy Bogger. He's played for Ivory Coast. No disrespect to the man, but if his career at Chelsea went the way it was going to be and he became a first-team fixture on a quicker basis, I don't think he would have played for Ivory Coast. Think he would have played for France. And this is the sort of thing, like, for the likes of Ivory Coast, many Caribbean nations, many African nations, we got to start getting players on loan to base clubs. The work permit thing is an issue. Clearly, Mets have a great thing with the Senegalese feeder club thing. Maybe Caribbean nations could strike up partnerships or do several things like that. Even China's doing that, where they're loaning out players and they're getting coaches in and things like that. It is what it is, man. But for a continent which have so many great footballing fans, I mean, look how heavy Jamaica, for instance, supports Brazil, myself included. It's a shame, to be honest, that they're nowhere near qualifying for the World Cup, and a number of African countries are nowhere near qualifying for the World Cup. A rich footballing nation like Ghana, again, I don't pay attention to Ghana like that, so I'm sure my Ghanaian people will be able to tell me better, but a rich African nation like Ghana, which you saw how they had the nation rocking in 2010, and all you had to do is go on Tottenham Hotspur and see how crazy Ghanaians are for football. They don't look any better to qualifying for a national tournament and things like that. So I have to question what's going on in all of these nations. I simply would like all corners of the world to have a level playing chance, man. But it will never happen for obvious reasons. But I thought, let me make a vid anyways, man. Like, and one thing that makes me pessimistic on this is that a former Jamaican-based international, and God strike me down if I'm lying, I can't name him because it will put him in this stuff. His words are actually, to me, for the nation to actually get better on a footballing basis, the president or the current president at the time actually has to die. Because he was telling me the micro things, even Montserrat, the country Montserrat, even little things like ensuring there's accommodation for players and things like that, it turns them off. People, you're saying you're going to give them players spending money and things like that, and they're going and they don't have any money to sustain themselves. It's these sort of things that need to be eradicated, I guess, but it's for another vid. Guys, deluded, get in the comments, subscribe and do the rest. I'm out.